Okay, let's dive into one of the weirdest and most frustrating parts of English, silent letters. They're like these little ghosts hiding in words. You see them, but you don't hear them. But don't worry. By the end of this, you're going to know exactly what to do with them. I mean, it's a fair question, right? You're looking at the word, you see the letter right there, but when you say it out loud, poof, it's gone. It almost feels like the language is trying to mess with you, but trust me, you are not the only one who's ever wondered about this. Just look at these. If you were to sound them out like a robot, you might say something like answer, or muscle, or fruit. But of course, we don't. That W, that C, and that I are totally silent. And this isn't just a few random words either. It's everywhere in English. And today, we're going to figure out why.
All right, let's jump into our first section. I want you to think of this whole thing like a puzzle. The words are the clues, and if we look close enough, we can actually uncover these hidden rules. A lot of these silent letters are basically fossils from how words used to be pronounced, like centuries ago.
First up, we're diving into what I like to call the consonant conspiracy. Now, it might seem like all these consonants are ganging up to confuse us, but the truth is way more interesting. There are actual patterns here, so let's start finding them.
Let's start with these words. Go ahead and say them out loud with me. Knife, knee, knock. Okay, now try these. Sign, foreign, gnome. Do you notice anything they have in common besides that silent letter hanging out at the beginning? And boom, there it is, our very first pattern. We'll just call it the N rule. You see it right there. When a K or a G shows up just before an N, it almost always goes quiet. And this is the key thing to remember, it's not random. It's a rule you can actually use.
And here it is in a full sentence. Lisa's knowledge, that K is completely gone, just like our rules said it would be. Hearing it in a real sentence kind of helps lock it in your brain, you know?
Okay, on to our next suspect, the silent B. You've got it in words like doubt and subtle, but pay really close attention to words like thumb and climb. The B sound is usually pretty strong, so it's kind of weird to see it just disappear like that. Do you see the pattern starting to show up here? I bet you spotted it. This is our second pattern, the M rule. When a word ends with an M followed by a B, like in climb, comb, or thumb, that B just doesn't get pronounced. See? Another secret code cracked. And let's put it to the test. There's a subtle hint of saffron. We don't say subtle, we say subtle. It just rolls off the tongue way easier, doesn't it? A lot of the time, that's exactly why these letters went silent. It just made the words quicker and easier to say. Okay, so now that we know we're hunting for patterns, we can pick up the pace a little. In this next part, we're going to run through a few more really common silent letters and just keep building on what we've learned.
So here we've got silent T's and silent L's. Think about it for a sec. You never hear the T in listen or castle, and that L totally vanishes in words like walk, talk, or palm. Once you see them all grouped together like this, it starts to feel a lot less random, right?
This is a great example. Listening to classical music. The T is just gone. It makes the whole word feel smoother and a little faster. And now let's solve those first mysteries we started with. The silent W in words like right, answer, and yes, sword. And then there's a tricky silent H in words like hour, honest, and ghost. What's really cool is a word like rhythm, where the silent H is there to give some structure to a word that doesn't even have a normal vowel sound. Here's a word we use all the time, answer. I mean, really think about it. Nobody says answer. This just goes to show you how important these silent letters are to the natural flow and rhythm of everyday English.
So far, we've pretty much only talked about consonants, but they're not the only ones that go quiet. Let's switch gears a little and check out what happens when the vowels themselves start to vanish.
Okay, what's really fascinating here is how these vowels sometimes work as a team. In fruit and suit, the I is silent, just letting the oo do all the talking. And check out the oo in guess, guard, build, and guitar. It's not really there to be heard. Its job is to make sure the G stays a hard G sound. It's basically a helper letter. It's just like that famous silent E at the end of words like make or sight, which exists only to change the sound of the vowel that comes before it. Now this is a fantastic example. The word is business. We say it with just 2 syllables, business. The I in the middle is completely gone. It's a really tricky one, but so common. All right, we have covered a ton of ground. We've gone from consonant conspiracies all the way to vowels that just disappear. So for our last section, let's bring it all together and talk about the biggest takeaways. Just stop and think about that for a second.
In just a few minutes, we have tackled more than 50 common, tricky words that have silent letters. That is a huge step. You've gone from just seeing a confusing mess of letters to actually understanding the system behind them.
And honestly, this is the most important thing to remember from all of this. Don't try to memorize a giant, endless list of words. That's not going to work. Instead, focus on recognizing the patterns we talked about, the N rule, the M rule, and how certain letters work together. That is the real secret to mastering this stuff for good. And that kind of leaves us with a really cool thought. Language never stops changing. It's always evolving. All these silent letters we have now, they were probably pronounced loud and clear hundreds of years ago, before things got simplified. So the big question is, which of the sounds that we make every single day are going to become the silent secrets of English for future generations? Something to think about. That's all for now. Thanks for joining me.